today, I am so excited to introduce Erik Allen. Erik Allen is like a top podcaster in a really, really interesting niche. And I am not going to ruin it. I'm going to let him tell us not only about what he's doing today, but how he got to where he's gotten today. Erik, thank you for being here.
Oh, no, it's such an honor to be here. Thank you for the opportunity. Really appreciate it. Yeah, my name's Erik Allen. I'm a multi-podcaster. So Top Rated MMA is my podcast where I talk with up-and-coming MMA fighters from around the world and love to just highlight their story. Like, why do they want to get in the cage to get punched in the face? And the other show is where I talk with entrepreneurs, world changers, and success-minded people. It's called the Erik Allen Show. And I ask them the same question, like, why do you want to get punched in the face? Hopefully not physically, but as entrepreneurs, we fail and we get rejected, we get abandoned, we get no's all the time. Why do we keep going? And so that's what I do. I love podcasting. I do some voiceover work and speak from the stage, and I do some brand product videos as well.
Oh, fantastic. So I've read a little bit about you. Do you care to share with us kind of how you got to where you are today?
Yeah, I love it. I grew up in Eastern Washington in what I thought was a typical household. Went to Sunday school, played Little League. My dad would take my best friend Dave and I and literally throw us in dumpsters behind big stores and say, go find treasure. That was like a typical Saturday morning. And oddly enough, Dave is still my best friend to this day. So it didn't scare him off. So it's
good.
Yeah. So, so 35 years, he's been my best friend. But, my parents got divorced when I was 11 years old. I'd never heard that word or even knew anybody that got a divorce before that. And so it was this strange thing that all of a sudden occurred in my life. And my mom got together with a guy who was very physically abusive almost immediately. And I didn't understand why she didn't want to leave him or kick him to the curb. And I witnessed a lot of physical abuse to her, not to myself, but to her as a young kid. And they did the smart thing. They got pregnant and decided to move to small town Montana, Stevensville, Montana. It's beautiful property, 5 acres, this house they rented. And this house had 3 bedrooms. It was one for them, one for my little brother, who was just a few months old at that time. And then my sister, who's 4 years younger than me. And they said, Erik, you get to live in the garage.
Oh my gosh.
Literally lived in the garage. I had this plastic tarp at the end of my bed that separated my bed from the truck that pulled in. And I had a fireplace on my half of the garage that kept me semi-warm during the -degree winters of Montana when I was there. It was pretty crazy. And that abuse and physical abuse that had happened in Washington, it happened like a lot more once we got to Washington or once we got to Montana, because we were pretty remote, probably 30 minutes or 40 minutes even from the closest police station. And so one night I'm brushing my teeth, 13 years old. And I felt in that moment, they came home arguing that it wasn't anything different than any other night. But in that moment, I felt God say, man, you got to turn around. And so as I peeked around the corner, behind me was the kitchen to the pantry to the garage where my room was at. And as I look around the corner, I see him on top of my mom, just boom, 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 3, 4 shots right to her face. I'm like, man, I got to get this guy off. And so I snuck up behind him. I grabbed a cast iron pan and I swung as hard as I could. And I split the back of his head open.
Wow.
And he didn't get knocked out. In fact, he turned around and he said, what the, and as he said that, I took another swing and split his forehead open.
Oh.
And I had swung so hard the second time I'd actually fallen over. And I remember him still not getting knocked out. He was so drunk. He stood up over me. He was yelling. He was bleeding from his face. My mom jumps up, punches him in the face several times, blood splatting the wall. Oh. Cops finally show up, take him to jail. My mom doesn't press charges again.
Oh no.
Then I was kicked out of the house at that point. I had 3 months left of my freshman year of high school and lived with a bunch of friends. And that set me on this destructional path for the next 10 years of my life.
Wow. So that's when you started using alcohol, drugs?
Yeah. So essentially I moved back to live with my dad, and he rented this house for us, and he put $20 in a cup, and he'd put Hunger Man meals in the freezer and make sure that I had cereal and milk in the house. And then he'd go stay with his girlfriend. So I had no adult supervision, no accountability. And so I started smoking pot during high school. I smoked pot at lunch. After school, I was doing acid, mushrooms, whatever I could get my hands on.
And when I was your pain.
Totally. Yeah. And at the time I didn't really think it was pain, but now looking back, like, oh yeah, I was hurting big time. And when I was 18 years old, I was still a senior in high school. I got arrested for having a bong, which is now legal in the state of Washington, but in 1998, it was not.
Wow.
And I had to go to jail, black and white chain gang outfit on, bright orange slippers. You would think that would scare me, but it didn't. I was on a year probation where I couldn't smoke pot. But what that did was enhance my drinking. And then 2 weeks after I graduated high school, I woke up to a note on my bathroom mirror that said, you can't comply with house rules. You have 48 hours to get out.
Wow.
And so that led me on this homeless journey for the next 2 years. Between 18 and 21, I moved 21 times.
Oh my God.
Living off of credit cards. I moved to Seattle with $100 in my pocket. And by the time I'm 21, I'm $28,000 in debt and had to file bankruptcy.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's just like this crazy journey, finally get into the music business, which was always my dream. I don't know how to play anything. I just was like, I love music. I want to be involved, and landed an internship with Universal Records, which led me to a rock star lifestyle for a couple of years without, being that rock star. So
Right.
probably 175 concerts over a 2-year span, and never paid for a beer, open tab at every single one of those.
What'd
And
you do for those guys?
I started out as just an intern where I was stuffing posters and tracking sales from their office there in downtown Seattle. And then I just showed up every day, 6 days a week. I was showing up to the office and wasn't paid for 6 months. And finally they're like, dude, this guy's here every day. We should hire him on. So they hired me on as the mailroom coordinator, and I was tracking sales still, but then I was doing meet and greets and setting up, radio contest winners and stuff like that. So I was spending a lot of time backstage with rock stars, which was really cool, but it definitely wasn't a healthy environment for myself, being
Right.
the past that I had. And my 1-year anniversary got laid off. This was during the Napster days, and it just set me down this basically a depression hole again. So I was working at Starbucks at night, and I'd get off work and go to the store, get a 6-pack of beer, and go to my ghetto apartment from across the street from Jimi Hendrix, where he's buried. And yeah, so it was like this, crazy thing. And one night this girl walked into Starbucks and she said, hey, we got this cool college age event down at our church. Would you be interested in going? And I didn't have any friends. I was depressed. I was alone, and she was really good looking. Absolutely. What time do I need to be there? So I go, and I ended up knowing all these guys from like the other side of the state. Man, I haven't seen you in 5 years. I haven't seen you in 7 years. And, for me personally, I felt like God was planting a seed in that moment. And about a month later, it was Easter 2004. I was managing a band, and we went out and played a concert the night before Easter. And I woke up Easter morning and surrounded by probably 15 guys in my buddy's basement. And I felt God really telling me in that moment, like, dude, you're going down this path that's going to end your life real quick if you don't start making some serious changes in your life. So I decided in that moment to give my life to Christ. I quit cold turkey, drugs, drinking, cigarettes, everything in that moment, and called that girl up. I got her voicemail and said, hey, thanks for inviting me to that church event. Happy Easter. Maybe I'll see you at the store. And now she's my wife of almost 17 years.
I love that.
Yeah.
That is so beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah, that's the quick rundown. Hopefully I didn't put people to sleep there.
No, are you kidding me? My God. I mean, I've heard some incredible stories from some of the people I've interviewed, but that's a good one. That's for sure.
We were actually both born at exactly 1:41 p.m. Different days, different years, but on our birth certificates, it's documented 1:41 p.m. Kind of crazy.
Wow. So you guys got married, and then what happened?
We just took 5 years to get to know each other. She came from a broken home as well, not as crazy as me, but much different stories, and so we kind of knew that what we didn't want to have in a marriage, but we also kind of brought the junk in, where I came in probably being more defensive because I was always blamed for things. And, and so we just took those first 5 years of just being us. We did a lot of traveling. We did camping, went down to Mexico twice and built homes for people, and, just really wanted to just give back. And so we took those 5 years, and then, my daughter was born in 2010, and now, so my kids are 11 and 8 now. And, we moved to Idaho, and we've been in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho since 2016. And, there's still always stuff that, we have to deal with some of our family members and things like that. But we purposely came to Idaho because we didn't want our family to just kind of, hey, knocking on the door. I was in the neighborhood, right? Like, we didn't know anybody when he came here. We just said, we're starting fresh. We're going to change the legacy of the Allen tribe with our kids. And going down the line, they're going to have a much different childhood than we did.
Oh, for sure. God does amazing things.
Yeah.
No doubt. I love that so much.
Thank you.
And so how did you get into podcasting?
Yeah, it actually started, Top Rated MMA started as an apparel company in 2012. My wife, being the smart one, came up with the name Top Rated MMA. Oh. And so we had no idea what we were doing. We didn't have a business plan. We just said, hey, let's buy a bunch of stuff. It'll sell. Well, it didn't sell. And so I ended up donating probably like 80 shirts to Hurricane Katrina victims. And then in 2015, I got bored. I literally put an ad in Craigslist and said, who wants to buy this company, this brand, and all this stuff? And one guy called me and he said, hey, I'll offer you a few grand. And I decided in that call that I wasn't ready to quit. So I kind of took the next year to kind of figure out, what do I want to do with the business? And so 2017, I launched the Top Rated MMA podcast from my walk-in closet. Had no idea what I was doing. Didn't have a camera, a bad camera, bad microphone, no lights, and did almost 100 episodes in that walk-in closet. Just wanted to know, why do you want to get in a cage, get punched in the face? And that's how it started.
I mean, what a fascinating niche. And your wife came up with that.
Yeah. Yep. She came up with the name.
What motivated her to know about that niche?
I've just always been a fan of combat sports and martial arts, and I'm not a fighter myself. I did a little bit of karate as a kid, but I was that kid who my dad would like rent movies when I was a kid that they would have no English. It was just ninja movies. And so we just watched ninja all the time. He'd take me to WWF events when those were around with Hulk Hogan and Macho Man. And, I think I was a ninja for Halloween for like 15 years straight, like just always been like this into combat sports. And so, yeah, it was just this cool niche where I love the respect that fighters have. 9 out of 10 times when they're getting in the cage, it's not personal. It's very much like, hey, this is my job. And the guys that I focus my show on are typically these up and coming amateur fighters who are not getting paid. They're just in there to build a record.
Right.
And then these early pro fighters as well. And so, that question of like, why do you want to get punched in the face? I've heard everything from, and I did karate or I did MMA or did wrestling and it transitioned MMA to guys who are like, I have a federal offense and I can't get a real job, but I can go in a cage and fight someone and put food on my table for my kids.
Oh my God.
And so I love the aspect, the question I ask on both my shows, the very first question is, tell me about your childhood and where did you grow up? Because I want my listeners to understand that these are real people that made a change in life. They decided on a goal and then they took action to get there.
Right.
And that's really what I focus on, on both my shows.
Sometimes don't you find that the people that had the toughest childhood are the ones that often go the furthest? Because
I do.
They've got so much, inner strength.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I guess it can work the other way too. They can just go down a rabbit hole and that's it.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I talked to a lot of guys and, a lot of gals that come on my show. They didn't exactly have that perfect childhood. Very few of them were ever given anything in life to go, hey, here's $1 million to start your business. Like they had to work hard. And I love that aspect because I think I'm on that same journey as well.
Absolutely. And so what's the goal?
The goal, it's funny goal. So on my office wall, I created a vision wall because my vision's too big for a board. And so I basically said, you know what? When I get up in the morning, I wake up at 4 a.m. 6 days a week. So I work on my vision, my focus, my podcast, everything. So the end goal is me having the property. And I have this cartoon on my wall that I see every morning when I walk in and people think it's the funniest thing, but it's a cartoon that says, if you can't pee off your front porch, your neighbors are too close. And that is like, my goal is I want that property. And not only just to say I have property, but what I want is I want an environment for my kids to be able to raise their kids at and just have this legacy of our property and say, man, this is what grandpa did. This is what grandpa and grandma did. They built this foundation for many tribes to go. So that's the end goal.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
And so you also interview entrepreneurs, and how do you decide on who you interview?
That's a great question. So I love talking with world changers and yeah, been blessed to speak with amazing guys from Ed Milet to Bedros Keuilian to Jim the Rookie Morris to the founder of Tap Out, and really what makes me want to talk to people is their stories. And I'm fascinated with people's stories. How did you get to where you're at? Bedros Keuilian, probably one of the most successful gym sort of guys out there in the environment or in the space. Like his family came to America illegally when he was a kid. They literally had to escape from their country or they would have been killed. And then they got here and like his mom couldn't afford lice treatment when he was a kid. So she was like sucking gas out of the neighbor's car to put it on his head. I mean,
oh God,
crazy stories. So I love those stories of people, the underdog guys, I guess, that get to where they're at.
I do too. You know what? I just love talking to everybody just like you, because everybody's got something to say, and most people's lives aren't perfect by any means.
That's right.
And so the more we can be transparent about that, I just think it's great.
Yeah. I love doing it. I'm so fascinated with people's stories and podcasting. And, when I first started, it was like, I selfishly wanted to talk with these entrepreneurs just so I could get some insight for myself. And I was like, man, this is so good. I got to share it out,
Yeah. I mean, I wish I could be Lewis Howes. I mean, wouldn't that be cool?
Oh, yeah. He's definitely on my wish list for sure.
I know. I have his book. I'm like, I want to be like a baby Lewis Howes or something. Maybe one day. We'll see.
He is so amazing. And his story is crazy too.
I know.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely one of those guys on my wish list for sure.
And you also know Greg
Reed?
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah,
you know Greg. You were just there at his recent knock, right?
I was. Well, it was Prosperity Camp that I was at. Yeah. So, but I will be at Secret Knock here next month, which I'm really excited about. But yeah, I had Greg on my show And I asked him, like, what is this secret knock thing that you have going on? I had no idea. It was kind of, I just checked out the website and he's like, oh, you have to be an invite and you have to do this. And, we don't tell you anything about it. And I thought, man, that's really cool. People would be amazed, like if they could go to this thing. And so I got done with the interview and then he messaged me, he said, Erik, you're in, I'll see you in September. And I was like, what? And, so I paid, a couple $1,000s to go to that event. And then we ended up, he's like, dude, I got this event called Prosperity Camp at my house. I want you to come. And so if you can get down here, we'll make it happen. And so I went and it just bare boned everything that I could. Like I wanted to get down there and really like be humbled in the trip. So I used air miles. I stayed at a Motel 6. I spent $585 total round trip for food and everything, just to make sure that I could get there to Prosperity Camp just 2 weeks ago.
Fantastic. Yeah, I think he's a genius.
Absolutely. Yeah, such a great guy.
Yeah, I met him years and years ago when he was actually probably just getting started in all of this.
Sure. Yeah.
And he was millionaire. What was he? Millionaire mentor.
Yes. Yep.
And he would drive his Mercedes down to South San Diego and mentor kids on the street.
I love it. Yeah.
Isn't that so cool?
He's got such a great heart, and his son Colt is such a great dude and such a amazing kid too.
And one of the things Greg said to me is he said, when Colt's 18, that's it. He's out. He goes, so I'm going to teach him everything he needs, and then that's it. I'm not supporting him anymore.
Yeah. I think that's a great concept. And just knowing Colt, or just met him, recently last week, like the things that he is already doing at 9 years old, I think there's going to be no issues for that kid when he turns 18.
Yeah. Like, did you hear about how he hired his friend to clean his room because he had better use of his time?
Yes. Oh yeah. Unbelievable. And he sells this nightly routine before he goes to bed. Like, I am Colt, I'm powerful, I'm strong. And like says that's going to work into his mental. And that's, I'm big on that too. I love to be able to, I say my affirmations in the morning. I read through my quotes. I, look at my family on my vision wall and go, man, this is why I'm doing this. And, but I think he's got such a strong head on his shoulders and just knows what he's going to be doing. He'll be very successful for sure.
I mean, he could just make another program just for kids.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, gosh. So if you had any advice, your favorite advice to give to people out there, what would you like to say?
The one thing that I love to say is, look, our past and people's opinions does not define our future. We can make a change at any moment, whatever we've been through. If we decide that we want to make a change, you've got to make that change and just put it in your mind and then take action to do it. And to do that, you've got to surround yourself with people that are living the life that you want to live, whether that's an art person or a car person or a podcaster. Go get uncomfortable to get comfortable around those guys. Go get around them, and just being in their presence is going to lift you up.
Absolutely. And you kind of sort of touched on the fact that it's mindset. Yes. Everybody who's had a tough road, when they made up their mind, their mindset was rock solid.
Yes. Yep.
And that's kind of something I'm really trying to impart on my students, because sometimes when they show up to my program, they're sort of lackadaisical. And I'm like, no, we got to do this, and we got to focus, and we got to get you where you want to get. We can't just kind of wing it.
Absolutely. Yeah. You have to be full on, go all in for sure on everything, and constantly move forward. And I have this thing on my wall that Ed Milet told me when I was talking to him, and, he says constant and never ending improvement. Yes. And man, that every day I have that on my wall, that I see that, and every day I just want to get a little bit better.
Well, you've got a great future. I can tell already.
Oh, thank you so much. I so appreciate it.
Well, Erik, thank you very much for coming on.
Oh, Donna, it's such an honor. This was a great conversation. I've been on a lot of podcasts. This one is definitely one of those that people need to be listening to. If they haven't heard this, haven't been joining your show, they need to subscribe and be listening to your show on the daily. It is so good. You're very professional as a host, and I so appreciate taking the time.
Thank you. Now, if anybody wants to reach out to you, what should they do?
So erikallenmedia.com is the website. It's ERIK. And then on Instagram, I'm really active on there. It's Erik G. Allen, ERIK G. Allen. And I respond to every comment and every DM. So if anybody has questions or anything like that, I'm more than open to just respond to them and helping them out.
Outstanding. All right. Well, I wish you the very best and continued success.
Thank you so much. Really, truly an honor to be here.
Thank you.